The sounds of panic and confusion were unfamiliar to many within Polaron, for no great emergencies of any kind had occurred here for centuries. The tolling of great bells, the sight of dragon knights pointing and guiding people towards safety, with their eyes ever looking to the skies, as well as the large number of hunters, men-at-arms, and other adventuring types running in the direction of the docks. All these signs made clear that something most unusual, and perhaps even dangerous, was in the offing. The assembled would-be heroes stood in dumb shock at the sight just beyond the docks, none able to put words to the horror unfolding before them. Dozens, if not hundreds of ships, all the ships in the greater Polaron waters for as far as the eye could see, were sinking, on fire, or already mostly submerged below the unusually choppy waters. Screams of the dying reached the shore and broke the spell of shock, allowing everyone to begin rescue operations. Then the first wave of rescue ships were sent flying, flipped, or otherwise destroyed as the cause of this disaster made itself known. Each ship lifted, broken, or otherwise struck by a growing, spike-like pillar of molten and rapidly cooling earth, ore, and crystal. And each pillar had its creator at the tip. "Spirefish!" The call echoed along shore and dock, and with the sea vessels now unsafe due to the nature of the calamity, and the docks themselves unsafe by extension, people fled any place suspended over water. As the piers and moors, as well as the ships docked at them, began to shake and break in loud, sharp snaps, the wisdom of their reaction was made manifest. Where ships were not an option anymore, the collected numbers of dragon knights, as well as the others that could affect flight, whether by wing or word, snapped into action now that the situation was better understood. First, to save survivors and cargo. Then, to capture and cull the Spirefish before this scene repeated itself. After that, we'd be figuring out how this had happened. By the 9 and 4, I welcome you once more to the library for another entry. I am the recorder, and in this entry we are going to look at one of the many forms of sea life within the realms. One that is a bane to sailors and fishermen across Jam'mar, as well as the greater realms. That being the Spirefish. Perceptive patrons and regular visitors to the library may remember a certain praetor's vessel being destroyed at the beginning of his hunter's exam. For those that do, Spirefish were the cause. But what are Spirefish, and how do they manage to be such a threat to those trying to ply the various seas of the realms? A Spirefish looks much like a starfish, only with just 4 limbs and a hard, metallic upper segmented shell. They range from only a few inches across to upwards of 3 feet, and can weigh several hundred pounds at those larger sizes. They are carnivores and tend to subsist on carrion or other prey that can be found on the continental shelves or other semi-shallow bodies of water, fresh or salt, with around 400 to 500 feet appearing to be their maximum wild comfortable depth, although they can survive much deeper. However, when prey, or anything prey-like, crosses above a spirefish, they will automatically attack. With the exact method of this detection still currently only speculated to be some sort of life sense. By opening a special organ in their mouths that is somehow connected to the elemental plane of Earth, a spirefish will find itself launched upwards on an ever-growing pillar of ejected molten rock, metal, and gem. The larger the spirefish, the wider the pillar, and the further and faster it can extend before it collapses in on itself. Should the spirefish run into something that does not immediately break from the impact, it will automatically close this organ and allow the momentum to carry them away from the spike they have just created, and to float back down to the seabed to await the spoils of their attack. The struck ship or creature, however, is lifted by the impact and then falls back down, also affected by the quicksand-like effect of the mass amount of steam generated by the molten rock, being impaled on the pillar as a result, injuring and damaging the target greatly, often lethally. As the pillar then rapidly cools, it will often break under the weight of trapped or dying prey, bringing the spoils to be consumed down on the seabed below by the spirefish over the coming hours and days. As spirefish can exist in groupings as little as a handful to thousands of spirefish within a single school, waters infested by them are almost unusable by most local populations, without first culling the spirefish. Fortunately, the fact that they are both easy to deal with if approached underwater, and that their numbers and size directly correspond to the available food sources, makes managing outbreaks doable for the many specialists that do such work. As the pillars created by the spirefish are renewable sources of sometimes very rare materials, there are those that actually farm the creatures, using rafts laden with small goats or other livestock to trigger the spirefish to create pillars to be harvested after transferring the spirefish to another tank. Others line the seabeds of their harbors with them, with special dividers to keep lanes of travel clear from the danger. This can prove a very effective anti-ship defense, so long as constant attention is paid to the location of all spirefish, as it can take only one large member of the species to sink a friendly vessel, should the spirefish manage to get somewhere it shouldn't be. As such, spirefish are most often culled on discovery, with certain reefs and island chains an exception, to serve as a refuge for these destructive yet unintelligent creatures. Believed to have evolved from elemental spirits that were a common sight during the Age of Elders, spirefish have been a part of sea life for as long as any of the peoples of the realms can remember, and have been found on many planets within the Credelis cluster. They are cursed and hated by most seafaring surface dwellers. However, to the sea elves and some others that dwell beneath the waves, they serve as excellent guard dogs and passive defenses, as their attacks alert all nearby and serve as quickly built defenses against sudden attack. Not to mention the resources that can be gathered as explained earlier. This sees many from the deeper waters travel to the surface to collect this very valuable livestock, some paying a fair sum for the privilege of collecting and taking these pests back to their depths, and serves as a mainstay of many surface and seafolk trade agreements. And on that final note, I want to thank you once more, my perceptive patrons and regular viewers, for your time and your interest in the realms. Thank you. Until you next find your way back to the library for your next entry, I have been the Recorder, and by the 9 and 4, be well, take care of yourselves and each other. A week later, and the bulk of the debris and wreckage was cleared. Almost all the cargo that could be recovered was, and all of the Spirefish had been dealt with. Some sort of mass summoning or other such spell was the rumor going around the bars and taverns. The assumed method of seeding the seabed with so many large Spirefish so secretly. Tens of thousands of Spirefish by the time it was all done, stretching from one end of Polaron's docks and bays to the other. All were collected and sold off or slain. No one knew who was responsible, and now divers made trips hourly under the waves to ensure no repeat occurrences were possible. Every major dock or seaside village has begun to make regular checks of their own waters, just in case. Polaron would take weeks, if not months, to return to full operation, with all the new rules that have been put into effect. And this further adds to the feeling of unease being felt far and wide. One of the greatest cities on Gryphon'sLibrary, and it had been brought to a halt, with no clue of the perpetrator or their motives. There is one other rumor making the rounds, one that is whispered softly and only in the dark. Whispers of war, spoken softly. These fears that it was just an opening move in something far larger. As I sat on the balcony of my room, overlooking the docks and the sea beyond, I smiled at the tension and chaos on such clear display. Things were going just as expected. If you'd like to contribute to the further exploration and explanation of the realms, please consider leaving a comment, a like, and sharing the video around. I read all the comments and make efforts to reply to each. Thank you for helping to grow the channel, and know I look forward to each and every one of your comments. Other methods of support can be found in the channel's description. Thank you for watching.